topic number 4 says, if black people use white supremacist labels, why can't white people practice African spirituality? Let me double check if this was one of those with a time on it. No, this doesn't have a time limit on it. So this comes with a link that takes us to Twitter, actually. On Twitter, it's a post from Kamji, otherwise known as Kamjiverse. He said, why so? Black people take on ethno-linguistic labels that white supremacists gave us. Afro-Asiatic, Negro Congo, Nilo-Saharan, Khoisan. Isn't that a fair exchange? And he was replying to a tweet that looks like it's gone because the account was suspended. So my apologies there. I didn't realize this tweet wasn't there anymore. So we can't really have the full conversation like I'd want to. So I tell you what I'll do. On the fly here, I'll create Shoot the Breeze topic, another Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 to replace it. And we'll talk about this topic instead. Let me just set it up. So, Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 tonight. Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 tonight is African spirituality is not googlygook, scientific inference of African spiritual thought long before Europeans understood their ideas. This came with a link. I also think, this one goes to YouTube. And I believe this has some time stamps involved. So let me see what the timestamps are. Okay, 102, 8 minutes. Sorry about that. We're going to go to 102. We're going to go to 102 and start there.
So if you're looking at the view, they also look at which relates to if a person dies, he or she hasn't really died. Then there's also proverbs such as that if a person dies, their tongue doesn't rot. Basically, this is an idea. As a matter of fact, on Saturday, we had an esteemed scholar named Imfundishi who came to the Lionhouse African Cultural Center. And he gave a very good, what I thought was a very good demonstration to help us understand this concept. Where, if, matter of fact, let's try it here. So I want you to say out loud, Mewaha.
Mewaha.
Very good. All right, so now I want you to close your eyes, close your mouth, and then think that to yourself.
I've done that.
Okay. So now, as you've done that, did you hear yourself say Mewaha?
Yes.
All right. Did you use your mouth to say Mewaha?
No.
Did you use your ears to hear yourself say Mewaha?
No.
All right. So this aspect of yourself, when you pass away, it didn't require any part of your body physically, not your mouth, not your head. So what exactly is that aspect of yourself? And when you pass on, would it require your body to continue being able to do what it does? So, I thought that was, a very good illustration to really get at the heart of what we're dealing with. Now, in modern day physics, there's this law of conservation of energy. And what it says basically is that energy is not created or destroyed in a closed system, it's only transformed. Now, this is supposed to be like a new scientific breakthrough discovery. Oh, wow. However, if you look at African societies throughout the continent, throughout the world, everything we do is based on that idea. Before we talked about Dikenga, and that's what I showed you before that I have here on my bag. So when you look at Dikenga, what you see here is that this is conception down at the bottom. This is birth. It's also the same as sunrise. This is at the high point. It's the same as noon. And then here we come down to sunset. And what this is also, like when a person passes on, then they come back to conception. And oftentimes I give the analogy of, okay, the human body is supposed to be, if you look at your blood and everything else, 60 to 70% water. So when a person passes on, you have to ask yourself, well, what happens to all of that water? Does it just, magically disappear? There's no, that water that was in you is no longer in the world. No, this is a closed system. So what you essentially have is that water will leave what was your body and then go into the earth. From the earth, it will evaporate and then go and become a cloud. From the cloud, it will rain and then go become part of the river. From the river, it will go and join the ocean. From the ocean, it will again evaporate and become a cloud. From there, so basically, this water that flowed through the veins of Imhotep, that flowed through the veins of Ptahhotep, that flowed through the veins of Queen Nzinga, Queen Amina, and we can go down the list of all of them, that exact same water is still there. So what aspect of them is no longer there? So now let's talk about the part that isn't water, the physical body. So if you look at what was their skin, if you look at what was their muscle, that when they are buried eventually, and we can talk about depending on what the casket is made out of, whether we're talking about 100 years, whether we're talking about 1,000 years, whether we're talking about 100,000 years, or whether we're talking about 1,000,000 years, or whether we're talking about 500 million years, eventually that is going to break down and go back and join the earth, which is what it came from initially. So when we're talking about this cycle, it's something that is readily observable. And then also there's this proverb, Bible say, yeah, you can say one thing doesn't spoil, another thing will not do well.
Because if you sow a seed, it has to rot or decay before it germinates and bears food.
Very good. And then even we can look at it on the front that we were discussing it before. So let's say you don't want to die, right? At least not right now.
Yeah. But I think that is another thing that, for me, the treatment of this topic, reincarnation, is important because the fear of death is too much down on Africans. Majority of whom want to go to heaven but don't want to die.
Right.
The only requisite means to go to heaven. Anyway, that's on the sidebar. So,
but
now,
let me learn this point that I was trying to make. So now, if you do pass away, you can say, all right, I don't think that's a good thing for me, or especially if it's under bad circumstances, from your perspective. But when your body then starts to, go back to join the earth, you don't consider it a good thing, but the seed from a tree that falls on that same location considers it to be very good because now it has nourishment in order to be able to become, a strong tree. So one thing, the death or the transition of one thing, the transformation of one thing, then turns into, something else. So again, this is the idea that everything that exists is just going to transform into another. Now, if you look at the ruler from ancient Kemet, Neb-Keperu-Ra, better known as Tutankhamen, that when you look at the name that he had, Neb-Keperu-Ra, translates to the Lord of the transformations of the sun. Now, if you look at everything that you are made out of is the same essential elements that the sun is made out of. And if you look at creation stories from ancient Kemet, they say that Atum, the sun, that everything else came out of Atum. So Shu and Tefnut, Geb and Nut, human beings are made out of the tears of the sun. And, it's very profound because Atum is the same thing that they now say in science is the atom, right? So the atom as a basic building block from which everything else is derived. So you just join those atoms in different configurations in order to come out with a human being, in order to come out with a planet, in order to come out with a moon, in order to come out with a star, in order to come out with anything else. So again, these are deep, profound, quite scientific things, but now they'll say, oh, this is a brand new idea. They won't say that the creation story is actually, the source of all of these ideas.
So now, it looks, the explanation you're giving, which makes sense to me, though, looks a bit abstract.
So there's a second piece here. I gotta find the time. All right, I got it. There's a second piece here that we're gonna watch, and then we'll have a complete conversation about all of it.
That's good. I think that's a good strategy to get our people right there. Doc, so a friend of mine who's also a doctor and a neurosurgeon, he explained a reincarnation just like you are saying. He says, for example, I'm giving birth, I live, I die, I'm buried, I decay, my physical body decay, form part of the soil. Okay. Then somebody grows plantain there.
Right.
My body, because my body has decayed and mixed with the soil, it nourishes the plantain.
Exactly.
The plantain tap the DNA, my DNA, from the soil. Then my DNA become part of the plantain. Somebody eats it, get my DNA, and I live through that person. When that person gives birth, then I'm back. That looks more like physical scientific. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about.
Mm.
So every aspect of the person, it just transforms into something else. So, you know, when we're looking at what reincarnation is all about, there are these aspects, physical aspects that we can talk about, but then there are the aspects that aren't necessarily physical or tangible, just like when you said Miwaha, but I didn't hear you say it.
Mm.
What happens to that aspect that we can't see? What happens to the aspect that was saying the Miwaha and that heard Miwaha, but we couldn't see it? That just like every other material aspect that we're talking about, also those aspects of the human being that are immaterial would also transform into something else. So, you know, I think the doctor is really talking about what we're dealing with. And then it also helps us to understand, and this was a point that I was just about to make, if you look at, you know, people having reverence for nature and people not wanting to be driven off of their ancestral lands, is because everything that's around them is made out of their own ancestors. So if you're looking at the tree and you don't just chop down every tree in the forest and then you'll make a sacrifice to that tree before you cut it down to make a drum, why would you do that? Because you understand that that tree is made out of the same thing as your own great grandparents. You understand? Same thing that's made out of yourself. So these are the things that we're talking about when we're looking at ancestral, you know, reverence. When we're talking about reverence for nature, why would you have reverence for nature? Because I know that my great 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 grandmother, who was on this exact same land, she is part of that tree that I'm chopping down. You understand that my great 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 grandfather is part of this.
This go to explain that the idea that when you pour libation, you pray to, like for example, a tree. You're going to cut a tree, and you pray and beg the tree before you cut it. It's got nothing got to do with paganism or other worshiping and all of those things.
It's coming from a deep understanding of science, of the law of conservation of energy, law of conservation of mass, all of these things that, you know, essentially energy is not created or destroyed, it's only transformed. So by the same token, the way that you would, you know, propitiate the tree before doing something that you would need to do is the same way, or, you know, an analogous way that you would have respect for another person, another human being. So if I want to, you know, do something or whatever, I would ask you, oh, Kwabena, can I use this? It's yours. Can I use this? Oh, Kwabena, can I use that? It's yours. You understand?
And I think most often we don't do that because we think we human beings are in a way better than the trees, the forest, the herbs around us.
Yeah. Well, this is what happened is that even though we're still ethnically African, in many ways we've been made anti-African through miseducation, diseducation, and anti-education, through entertainment, through religion, through all these things. So physically, we still have the basic building blocks to be African. However, internally, you know, this African self has been taken out, and then this alien white agent has been implanted. So to the things that we desire. And it's sort of like if you look at, and there's a scholar named Amos Wilson, I'll put it in the X Live um, group here, but he talks about similar things in terms of spirit possession and also in terms of multiple personality disorder. Now, looking at multiple personality disorder, he talks about there's this guy, Timmy, but that's only one of his personalities. Now, when this one drinks orange juice, he breaks out in hives. When that personality is gone, another one comes and drinks orange juice, absolutely nothing happens. So physiologically, there's a reaction based on the type of consciousness that's in this person. You'll have cases where this particular personality smokes. You understand? Now, what is it doing? It's saying based on this consciousness that's inside of me right now, I'm going to do something that I want, even if it harms the host body. So we know that the cigarettes, the smoke, and all this, it can bring about cancer. But it doesn't care. This consciousness that's inside of it, it wants to satiate itself. It wants what it wants, regardless of what happens. This is essentially the same thing that happens when we have this white consciousness in us. And the main way to get the white consciousness in us is through miseducation, diseducation, anti-education, through entertainment, through the movies that you watch and TV that you watch and all these things. And that sometimes is the most insidious because it's the one that seems like it's harmless. You're just laughing and you're just like, ha ha, it's just whatever. But this is how they get the thoughts to say, oh, product placement is in this movie. Then you go out and you just say, I just want to drink Coke. And you don't understand why you just want to drink Coke, but it's because you saw it placed in a movie one time, at the climax of the movie that the hero did such and such and such and such. Also through religion, and that one is very obvious if you're praying to this imaginary whiteboard. So let me just land on this point and then we can continue. But when you have this white, agent that's been implanted in you, now even if it destroys the host body, even if it destroys the environment in which the host body lives, it wants to fulfill its tastes and its desires. So it just says, oh, I want Pizza Hut. Now, what if this isn't good for your blood pressure? What if this gives you diabetes? You just say, I want KFC, I want this, I want that. So now, even though physiologically, biogenetically, you're African, every single thing inside of you craves that which is made by your enemies, whether it's the clothes that we wear, whether it's the language that we speak, whether it's the perm in the hair, whether it's the skin bleaching, that this is as a result of we have outer shells that are still African, but for many of us, entirely what is inside of us has been replaced. Or even when it's not entire, this is where you may have something that is inside of you that says, you know what, there's this disconnect. I'm fundamentally African. Then you start to reject this whiteness and you start to re-Africanize and de-whitenize. And that's against what your enemies want you to do. That's why they put all of these consciousness shaping tokens in your environment. So they'll just put this here, they'll just put that there. Now you just say, oh, I just want a phone made by Apple. Oh, I just want this made by this. I just want that made by that. Because they just put all of these things. This is why they spend billions and billions and billions on advertising in order to shape your consciousness and make you desire the things that fundamentally destroy you.
We're going to look at two things which is of reincarnation.
All right, we'll end there. Computer's lagging a little bit. Should be solved number 4. African spirituality is not googlygook. The scientific inferences of African spiritual thought long before Europeans understood these ideas. I think it was a good discussion by Obadley Camden there. I'm wondering, did he or his father write a book on African science that spells out some of these concepts he's dealing with right here? And if not him, did anyone do a similar job? And do you know the names of the books? I'd like to check those out. Let me start with Azuliism this time. Azuliism, you're a bit of a spiritualist. What say you to this?
I mean, I always said that because when you look, if you're in a coma, you get in a coma, the body is still there. Hospitals have been able to keep the body going for years, feeding it, cleaning it. But when that driver is not there, meaning the driver of the vessel, where does it go? And again, in the voodoo spirituality, it tells you come from the water. So, like in Haiti, for example, if you're like a Ugan or Mumbo, like a very revered person, when you die, it says that you go back to the water. And there's a ceremony that has to be done to retrieve you from the water after you die to make it something. I don't really know, but everything comes from you come from the waters, whether that's the waters of the ocean or that's the waters in your mother's belly. Is that, and I understand what the brother, he said something like, when we believe that when the forest had a god, the water had a god, people were less likely to destroy that. When you introduce Islam, and Christianity, it's easier for you to destroy the forest because there's no God living in there. It's not spiritual. It's nothing. God made you the top dog, and you could do everything because in the book it says God gave you dominion over animals. So it's easy for you to kill an animal, to go hunting and kill a lion, and then go to church the next day. It's easy for you to go to a supermarket and eat beef, kill a mouse, kill a squirrel, kill a raccoon. You could hit a raccoon while you're driving and just keep on going. It has no effect on you because they have bred that you see a raccoon or a dog or a lion as your equal. People don't. They chase the African. They chase the African. They chase the Native American, which I said to me is a black Native American, out of the forest. Now people don't want to walk barefoot no more. They want to walk with shoes. But if you ask this brother, he's probably tell you you need to walk barefoot because there's a connection from you to the earth. But when I talk like that, a lot of people on the chat come like, what did that do for black people? How is that going to benefit us? Because we are all looking at materialism. We don't. It's just like when they used to build the houses. Like I think last week you discussed one of those big houses that's getting Coco. Remember was it the Adobe house in Africa or something that was built out of sand? So back then they built their house with the ecosystem, not away from it. So this brother said something. I understand what he's saying, but black people are looking at this like, yo, how do you commodify this? How you turn this into money, materialism? Black people don't respect that because there's no materialism, because it's not giving you money, it's not giving you a Benz, a car, it's not making you the number one superpower. Maybe it can, but it's just we're not using it the right way. But at the end of the day, most of us don't really care about that until Sue from Indiana comes and say, "Hey, I'm doing a retreat to the Amazon," and then they tell you, "Oh, go to the Amazon and do this and that." Then it's different. But as a whole, I think we have lost that so-called spirituality. Most of us are not in tune with it. So I don't know, bro, because I don't know what does that mean? The googly, what does that mean? Googly gook. What does that mean? It's not googly gook. African spirituality is not googly gook. The scientific inference and a lot of the stuff that I
It's
think.
like saying mumbo jumbo.
Oh, okay. Because RBG said something. Science is the interpretation, not the instrument. Because science is just finding out how those things operate. Because they said the Dogon knew about some star before the scientific community knew about it, and they didn't have telescope, they didn't have satellites and stuff like that. So in a way, when we take, like this brother said, like if you see a dog in the street and you see God in the dog, you won't kick it. You won't just cut trees for the sake of it. You won't dirty the water for the sake of it. You won't overfish for the sake of it because it's you. But that's just another thing. But I think most of us are not spiritually minded. Most black of us are just looking at materialism. So that to them, what that brother is saying is just BS. So that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you for that, Razuli. So I of course, I don't think it's mumbo jumbo. What I will say though, especially in the condition that our folks are in right now, you got to you have to connect this understanding here. So basically, in some part of this video, he was talking about the Newtonian concept of energy not being created nor destroyed. And he gave a rather extensive or lengthy-ish explanation, right? What I would want these guys or someone who's around these guys or what have you, or like the person, the author that's on the screen right now that Trigger Happy put up, make that connection, man. Make those solid connections with these concepts, because the condition that we're in, where most of us went through, in America it's called the public school system or government school or whatever back home. Like, we've gotten this education about the Newtons of the world and whatnot, and what they've been able to do is show you how Newton's wording of something or his concept of something is reproducible. It might not be exact, but it's reproducible. And I think if we start talking about African spirituality, African science, I think we got to connect it so people can see that it's reproducible. I think that's the thing that might be a little bit lacking. We don't necessarily connect it in a practical way. I'll end there. I'll go to Real Black Gentleman. What say you, Real Black Gentleman?
I agree that, you know what I'm saying, black science is definitely misinterpreted. The one thing I want to say about, you know what I'm saying, telescopes, right? What is a telescope? It's just a magnifying lens. Okay, here I'm gonna say this, right? So, you know what I'm saying? So you mean to tell me that black people didn't make a magnifying glass that, looked at the moon and made it bigger? So that, you know what I'm saying, that black people didn't like put a couple lenses together in a little tube and like looked at stuff? That right there, is just like boom. Like you mean to tell me they didn't understand a lens that could see a little further? That would be very useful in combat, yo. A little piece of glass, even if it's like volcanic glass, you know what I'm saying? Yo, like little things like interpreting distances and stuff like that. Look, I'm saying that black people had telescopes. Now, here's my thing about the Dogon people in these telescopes, right? I'm trying to say, right? Look, back in the day, you know what I'm saying, there was no like light pollution, there was no like street lights. Dark was dark. And if you had really good eyes, you could see everything at night. You know what I'm saying? Now Sirius is really far away. It's a star it's relatively far. I mean, distance-wise is incredibly far, but it's one of the closer stars to Earth, right? So if you have incredible eyesight, plus you have, a little lens that could magnify the sky, yeah, I think you might be able to see. I'm saying it's well within the realm of possibility if you have extended equipment. If you have a lens and you have excellent eyesight, which I'm sure that, the Dogons are probably trained. I bet you got to train your eyes. You can start to see things. That's just like, I say that shouldn't be an incredulous statement. Yo, like, yeah, these Dogons was seeing. I mean, but maybe not just with their own eyes, with you know what I'm saying, with equipment. Yeah, you can see all kinds of things with a telescope if you have really good eyesight. That's what I got to say. I know that black people had all kinds of, and the thing is, like, you got to realize that a very fine lens is very delicate, and high technology breaks down very quickly. A lens is what, a piece of glass that's going to break down. Oh, well, where's the evidence? Well, the glass, crumbled and turned to sand. You know how there's a whole bunch of sand, in Africa where they probably made a glass lens for. So like, you got to understand how high technology breaks. A cell phone breaks down very quickly. What, in 100 years? Well, you know what I'm saying. You got to understand, these are the details about history that people like. Little wires corrode and they fall away. You know what I'm saying? High delicate technology breaks up over very short time frames. Always keep that in mind when you look at history. You just see the rocks, but there's all kinds of glisten and gleam between that. You know what I'm saying? Black people had all day was definitely, you know what I'm saying, we were shining. And we had science. We had replicatable science. The pyramids is classic reproducible science. Game, set, match. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So we know, but when you get invaded, you can't teach the babies the same things that your great grandbabies was teaching on a higher level, because you running around scrambling and shit. Yeah, science and shit gets lost over relatively short time frames. 50 years, those teachers and what you thought was that y'all was doing it, but y'all got ran through somehow. You know what I'm saying? All that fine stuff was lost. That's what happened, right? You know what I'm saying? And so maybe even, you know what I'm saying, even over that I know black people had science. There's no way that black people did not have, again, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, when we talk about the Library of Alexandria, a lot of that science was snatched out of there. Some of it was burned, some of that stuff was looted out. You know what I'm saying? It's things that we don't, these white folks know things about us that we don't necessarily know about ourselves. We know it epigenetically, but we have to, you know what I'm saying, sketch it out and re-manifest that shit. But even at a higher level than it was when we even did it. We just had all we have to do is just add a couple of little layers of complexity to it. I mean, what we do is already complex. We just have to reinforce it. You know what I'm saying? It's not impossible. I mean, the African science is not. I see some things, and it's like, again, reproducible. If you don't know what you're paying attention to, you don't know. Divination. We see people with bones and stuff. I mean, that's divination. Look, there is a method to what seems to be madness. I can see here and think on the top of my head that's crazy, but no, there's an up and down to these things. I mean, some of these things. I mean, it's hard because, I mean, again, because naturally things have degraded, but people do attempt to bring about order. So when you see people doing things that tries to bring about some kind of making sense of the universe, you can these things can be improved upon, but understand like the source of what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? People say voodoo's crazy. No, it's not. It's very methodical. I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all picked up on it, but RBG said some real shit inside that little response he had there. That idea of the sand and glass and stuff. That's kind of dope what he did there. I'll say that I think we did have reproducible science, and RBG, you cited the pyramids and stuff, but again, because of what's happened to us, we have to really, sankofa this thing. But more than that, we have to show the parallel, right? If you've been raised on this European science, for example, and you understand E equals MC squared, for you to switch and embrace the African, the similar African concept, the person teaching that has to extend that to a point where, okay, I can pick this up. I can see its parallel. I can use it to get the same outcomes like when I use this European science. I think when you just leave it at a story, right? I think when you just leave it at a story, but you don't connect it with someone could use that in the realm of mathematics or chemistry or what have you, I think that's where we fall off. Let's hear from Buana on this one next.
Yeah, so there were some profound things that were said tonight that I got a lot from. In terms of what Dr. Cambon was saying, how you reference the cycle of life and the cycle of nature in terms of spirituality, and how you broke that down. I understand that, and I would never consider that to be gobbledygook, because when you have to explain things to people in a language in which they fundamentally understand. And I'm a student of nature. I'm a student of the natural world. And if you could break down, and when you reference African spirituality and how he referenced that in terms of going to the soil, and the soil is actually producing trees, and then protecting the land itself because you understand that these are our ancestors. That's something that's understandable to me. Now we speak in the language of spirituality, and I am comfortable with that conversation because we take the spiritual, the African spirituality out of the supernatural, and he put it into the natural world, in which I can understand. When Azuli say some profound shit, and I don't know why Azuli talk crazy all that, because he say some profound shit from time to time. He says that in Haiti, the Hugon goes, when he dies, he goes back to the water, either the water in the rivers or the what. And then he referenced it to when a woman is pregnant, the waters of the woman's stomach, you know, because during the gestation period, there's waters and that's it's almost like really saying that the spirit going back to God. Now, when we was having the conversation last week, or we were saying the black woman is God, that's another kind of conversation. But the fact that he referenced it in the natural world, I say, wow, I was blown away by the comment because I understand it on a natural level. And I think that if you are taking African spirituality out of the supernatural world, realm, or whatever, and explaining it in the natural world and how it applies, the applicability of it, I can understand it. I can flow with you. We can go, we can hang. But when you start creating fun, when you start creating supernatural stories, that's when you lose me. And I think that if the spirituality, African spirituality, is explained on a natural kind of level, I think that you would get the air of more brothers who don't necessarily go off into the supernatural world. You know what I mean? I think that if you could put it back into the natural world, I think that the brothers would be more inclined to walk along with that. I think so. But that's just my opinion. I just wanted to reference some of the things that I heard that really resonated, you know, when it was spoken of. Something was really mentioned and something what Doc mentioned. But I'll stop there. I'll stop there.
Appreciate that, Buana. Trigger Happy and Bakari have been having a little discussion back and forth about the utility of spirituality versus the reality. You guys could check out those comments. You can check out those comments during the playback.
Can I say something real quick?
Trigger says this presentation here. Hold on a second. This presentation here, my computer's acting up for some reason. This presentation here is only a brief taste. There are many scientists and whatnot that really gets deeper into this concept. We need to simply institutionalize such pedagogy. He says this is also why our languages are important, because that's how you will make the connections when it comes to teaching. Lastly, he says, I think it's more like our spiritual practices have been misframed to be supernatural, and that it's always been highly scientific to deal with how to live life. That's why I mentioned E.B. Tyler a lot. All right, Azuli wanted to say something quickly. Go ahead.
What I want to say is that two things, real quick. The supernatural can't be understood because you haven't created a science enough to catch up to it. Well, once you created a science to catch up with it, then you're gonna say, "Oh, science proved it that it was right." This somebody in the chat said, "Oh, until the supernatural does something for Black people." It's funny how some people be going all emotional to defend physical, material HBCUs, but shit on Black spirituality. It's funny how the same people that talk about, oh yeah, I never say good things about Black people, but quick to dismiss African spirituality. So I see it. So the same way you accuse certain people, you go at people for saying, oh, you never say anything good about Black people. But some people right now are disrespecting or saying African spirituality is people who practice African spirituality are just too afraid to do physical things. Okay, all right, that's what I have to say.
This man chose violence tonight, I see, man. Poking the bear. With that said,
he chose violence.
Yeah, he chose violence tonight. With that said, Black Steel, you heard everything everyone else had to say. What say you to all of it?
So it doesn't surprise me that Africans have. I mean, African people were the first. We're the origins of humanity. I think that we've always been on the cutting edge of understanding the universe around us, and also to our interpretation of the world around us. So one thing that the way African people interpret the universe is that we consider ourselves to be a part of nature, right? So we all have our place within the world. Whereas with the European, they conceptualize themselves to be up and apart, above nature, which is why they always talk about having dominion over all living things, to conquer the earth and to subdue it. You know, it says in the book of Genesis. But whereas with African people, there's no need to conquer or subdue because we are already a part of it. And I think this distinction really shows how we value life on this planet and how we value each other. You know, with the European, is everything is conquest to conquest to conquest, where we don't really see the world like that. And it's interesting because when in school, we talk about the different uh things the Greeks came up with as far as like mathematics, everything else like that. That came from Africa. The whole Pythagorean theorem. Pythagoras got his shit from Kemet. So, we've always been at the forefront of science and technology and things like that. This is no surprise to me. And plus also the whole idea that when you break down, since matter can neither be created nor destroyed. So when you pass on, your body is just transformed to another form of energy. That's the law of thermodynamics. But of course, African people came up with that. They're not going to give us any credit. No, we don't need them to acknowledge our credit because we understand the implications of that. So I'll leave it there. And this is a very good topic. All right, thank you.
Let's welcome in Brother Bakari this week. Brother Bakari, how are you?
What's going on? I'm good.
Good.
What's going on, Bawano? Chat, everybody on the panel. Hey, look, can y'all hear me?
Hey, big bro.
Yes, sir.
Well, look, first of all, I said nothing negative about nobody. But my point about spirituality still stands. Because you can stand up here, you can get on YouTube and you'll speak with bass in your voice. I heard you earlier say the black woman sound like a man, tell black folks they ain't ish. But then when we go to talking about it, you ain't gonna fight nothing. And I'm gonna still stand what I said. Y'all don't, that spirituality, and I ain't telling nobody because I also said in the chat that if that spirituality works for you, I'm not knocking it. Let it work for you. But I don't deal with those spiritual gurus because I haven't seen the spiritual manifest anything in the physical. Is this spirituality gonna get this knee off your neck? Y'all was just sitting up here talking about reparations. Is this spirituality gonna help you get reparations? Is this spirituality gonna build a military? And yes, what I said, I mean that I think black people stay out in the clouds. A lot of black people stay out in the clouds and go to worrying about something that they can't see, touch, hear, smell, nothing to keep them, because what is going on and what's happening to us, they can't deal with it. So let's stay focused on this. If we just focus on this, we'll be okay. But that spirituality, and I'm talking about, when is black people gonna say, let's do something in the physical so we can fight? Let's do something in the physical. Let's do something in the physical so we can take care of ourselves. But running around, this is just my personal opinion. This spirituality stuff, a lot of time, the way a lot of these people use it and what they talking about they doing, these spiritual gurus, and you hear this stuff, they ain't no different than Christians. They're no different. They're using it, a lot of them, I don't know about this guy, but a lot of them, they're just using this stuff to hustle people. But because they put Africa in front of it, everybody just, oh, it's African spirituality. You talking bad about African spirituality. I say it's spiritual. I didn't say anything about Africa. I said saying this spiritual stuff is what I said in these spiritual gurus. That's what I said. And my point stands, because when you show me what his spirit has made you fight. Show me what made you stand up for something in the physical. I know people who wouldn't worry about that, who stood up for stuff in the physical. It's just me personally. And that's all I'm talking about. But we'll hold on to that, and it's going to be so close to us. I'm not saying you're wrong, because it might be right for you. But I was speaking my opinion about how I see it. And I wouldn't tell you don't do it if it works for you. I was speaking for me, and I didn't say anything negative. But I have seen these spiritual gurus, and it's a lot of them on YouTube. It's a lot of them on YouTube that I know is beating people out of money. I got a friend right now. I can't convince her to stop listening to some of this stuff that she's saying, because it does not make sense. Stop listening to them people giving these people your money. They're scamming you, but they're so spiritual. I don't give a shit. They're so rich off your money. Stop giving them people. Stop going to these folks. And that's what I say at these spiritual gurus. So I'm gonna come up here and correct you when you try to come at me, Azuli. Because see, the thing about it is, I ain't scared to say your name. And yes, and I'm gonna still stand up for HBCUs and black businesses, and I'm gonna still say the black woman is God. Ain't that something? When Bawana said that, and he said that's another conversation. Your mama gave birth to you, fed you, did all that. But it's a problem if you say the black woman is God. But for some spirit, you don't know what the hell it is. So now somebody else got to explain it to you. That is okay. And I don't even really be meaning it, but I know how I gonna get y'all because I take up for a black woman. But we can't give a black woman no props. The woman that raised you, the woman that fed you, helped you learn to walk, taught you to talk, speak, clothe you, bathe you, wipe your stinking ass, got the boogers out your nose. But you got a problem if I say the black woman is God. But this spiritual stuff, you have to have a perfect understanding. That shit is
Brother
crazy.
Bakari,
To me,
Brother Bakari, I wanted to ask you, please for me, give me your working definition when you say God, what that means. Give me a working definition. What you mean when you say God?
oh, when I say God, I'm talking about people here on earth. I say the black man and black woman because that's them the people I deal with and who I care about. Do I think there's something bigger than me? Do I believe there's a creator? There's things I don't understand, and I don't try to understand. Do I believe in miracles? Yes, but when I say God, I'm just talking about us.
Nothing supernatural or no perfect kind of
No,
spirit. Okay.
no.
I just need to understand it. I just need a definition. All right.
It's nothing supernatural. God is the physical.
God cannot be
And
the
this is what
physical, because when people use the word God, that's something spiritual. How are you going to take over? You don't that spirituality. If it works for you, it works for you. When the next breath called the God, woman, God. The term God is a spiritual thing. Nobody can see a God. If
is
you're
God
if
to you.
you're a
It's a
human, you're not
spiritual thing
God.
to you. It's a
You're not
spiritual
God.
thing to you.
You're
It's a
making shit up
spiritual
right
thing
now,
to
man.
you.
You're making shit up right now. 100 years from
It's
now,
a
a God is
spiritual
not.
thing to
The word
you.
God is not relegated to a
It's a
human.
spiritual thing. Okay,
The
watch this.
word God is not
Who said that?
relegated to a human, bro. Come on, let's be
Who's
honest.
okay? Tell me where you get it from. Tell me where you get it from where it's not relegated to a human.
What do you
Tell me where
mean?
you get it from.
And everywhere.
Who
What do you mean where I
taught you
get it from?
that?
I get it from my own people. African people don't believe humans are God.
Okay, God, African people, if you talk to them and they're honest, they'll also tell you they didn't even use the word God. They're also, I got friends right now.
Okay, let's say they didn't use the word
I got
God, but
friends
they
right
use
now
a
from
word that said
Cameroon.
creator. Okay, when you say God,
So
do you believe if you say the black woman is God, can she create? Can she in her mind or whatever the God mean? Does she have supernatural powers? When you say she's God,
I've already answered that
you say
question. I
no.
already said it ain't nothing. I've already said there's
So
nothing
what you using it
supernatural to
for?
me.
So what you using that
When I
term for?
say
That's
God,
a fake term. Stop using that term. You're
I
not
use
God, bro.
says who? Says who is fake? See, you holding on to this so-called
That shit sounds
spirituality,
dumb.
and
They just
you
asked you.
also got some religious beliefs in you, because I done heard you quote the Nation of Islam. So you don't see how someone can say God is in the physical. But even if you go back to your religious books, because you quote the Nation of Islam, I've heard you do that. Even if you go back to any of these religious books, your religious books tell you, I have said ye are gods, but you will die like men. You can't tell
Okay,
me
if
how
you are
I'm
a God,
supposed to. You can't tell me how I'm supposed to see something. Who wrote that rule? How you gonna tell me that I have to see God as something spooky I can't see, I can't touch, I can't smell, I can't hear? Who said that?
But no, you don't have to. But even when Boana asks you your definition of God, you say God is a human. It's just a regular nigga.
Yes.
So if
No,
that's
I
such a
don't use.
regular
Well,
person, why are you
wait.
using
See,
that term?
once again, you misquoted me because I didn't call nobody the N word. See, now you misquoting me.
Okay. Now you're using semantics. You never said that. You said
No, I'm not.
when you use the word God.
No, I'm not. Because I don't call nobody the N word. So I hear it used so many different ways. So I don't call nobody that. I don't know if it's a term of endearment or if you ready to go kill an N word. I have no idea. I don't use the word. So
okay, what you're saying is that when Boana asked you, you said that the word, when you use the word God, it doesn't mean anything power, spirituality, doesn't mean that you could create shit with your own mind. It just means a regular human, right?
watch this. Me
So why do you
and
use the
my
word
wife.
God? If you don't
Me
believe in
and
the
my
term
wife,
God, if you don't,
me and my wife in our mind created our kids. Then we got together in the physical and actually created them. But in our mind, we had already discussed having children. So we created it in our head first. So we had already created them. Then we got in the physical and did what it take to make them.
no, brother, you didn't create them. You created the fucking body. You didn't create the person that's driving the body. That's what you created.
Okay.
You created
Who
the
created?
body. You created the body. That's what you created. Because
what the hell are you
I
talking
just said
about?
to you, if you get into a coma, if somebody gets into a coma, men have the ability to keep the body going. But the thing that drives the body is not there. So you and your wife got together and created the body. But how did whoever your daughter or your son is get into that body?
Me and my wife got together and did it.
Okay, all right, bro, you got it.
That's how I get there. If you don't know how kids are made, how old are you? If you don't know how children are created, how old are you? And I also said, when I say God, I know there's something bigger than me. I also said I believe in miracles. There's things that I can't explain. I also said that. But I said I think we look out in the clouds too much. I didn't even say don't do it. I say I think we do it too much is what I said. That's all I said. I think we do it too much. We focus on that and it takes us away from reality.
All right, Bakari. All right, Bakari. We get it. I will say this though. I find I have a problem with the spiritualists, the religious, when pragmatic people come along and say, that just, I have a criticism of this stuff because how come it hasn't benefited us, being that we're the most religious people? We're the ones who practice African spirituality the most, right? And how come our gods or deities, or however you want to frame it, how come they haven't come to some rescue? Why is it our enemy's God is beating ours? To go back to that Wilder fight with the Gypsy King, right? How come that happens? And I have a problem when those who adhere to the spiritual, who connect with the spiritual, I have a problem when you bring that up and they get kind of offended. They get kind of offended. I think that's a valid question to ask. Where is this God? Trigger says we don't practice it in mass. No, but within that bucket called African spirituality, the most people in that is black folks. The most people in that is black folks. White folks ain't practicing it. And again, so I'm saying, well, if it's most of y'all people practicing the shit, I don't think there's a problem in asking, well, what has this God, or deity or spirit or what have you, what have they really done for its adherents? I have a problem when some folks start to argue that stuff. It's a valid question. Does anyone? Did I get to everyone? I don't think I got to Black Steel on this one yet, right?
No, you got to me. We can't get to number five today, so I guess it's a wrap. No, you got to me. I said all I wanted to say on it.
All right. Does anyone have any last words on this prompt?
I have
right.
last words. I have last words.
All right.
I would like. Okay, this is gonna be quick. What I am hearing from both of the brothers is something that it seems to be a contrast, but it's still going in the same direction. And here's what I mean by that. And I could be very quick. When Azuli said that the Ugon, when he dies, his spirit goes back to the waters. And then when he say waters, I don't know, he connect that to the ocean, and then he says the waters of the womb of the woman, right? He make that connection there, right? So if the spirit, usually in the Christian parlance, they say the spirit go back to God. So if it going back to the waters of the womb of the woman, then I see a connection there when Brother Bakari say the black woman is freaking God. However, I understand the distinct nuances. I would like next week maybe because I see the connection, and maybe y'all can show me where the disconnect is. But I see that there's a distinct connection there when one saying one thing and one saying another thing, and maybe y'all talking a different part like positions. But I do see a connection. But I'll leave it there for now. It's been a very good discussion, brothers. I appreciate you all for coming out and explaining some things to me that it wasn't very clear to me. And I would just leave it there. Thank you, Koku. Thanks.
All right. Does anyone else have any last thoughts on this prompt? All right, then. That's the show tonight. We don't have time to go to another prompt. So I want to thank everyone who was here. Bakari just jumped off. I was just going to go to Bakari and see what you want to shout out this week. Azuli, what do you want to shout out this week?
Shout out to the show. So it was good conversation. That's it.
Real Black Gentleman, what do you want to shout out this week?
No, again, just want to shout out the discussion. I'm glad we brought up some topics about the Caribbean. I think that it's anything to uplift and improve our people. You know what I'm saying? Worldwide. Again, reading about the Kenyans moving in, trying to do something. I mean, it's unorthodox. Hopefully, something good comes out of it. If not, I think we'll definitely see like the limits of maybe how Black people can do things. But I mean, I'm not going to be mad at the African peoples, again, knock on wood, that everything, has some relatively measurable improvement by their presence. I understand, I just want to say that was my shout out. I want people to, get what rightfully ours in Sankofa.
Thank you for that, RBG. Black Steel, what would you like to shout out this week?
Good show tonight, everybody. Free Haiti, free Palestine. I know I'm very happy of those events that are taking place today in Palestine. I love to see the colonizers on the run. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and I hope everybody have a good night.
Thank you, Black Steel, for coming through. That leaves us with Buana. Buana, what say you? What do you want to shout out this week?
Shout out the brothers for coming on tonight and having a spirited discussion. No love lost. Like I say, sometimes we disagree, and we disagree actively, but that don't necessarily mean there's nothing personal. Nothing personal is lost. We need to keep each other very sharp mentally, because we live in the real world where we have real world problems. So it's very good for us to come together to keep each other mentally sharp and to hold each other to task for some of the ideas that we may hold that may be ridiculous and spurious. So, I say shout out to the brothers for coming on and just having a conversation, But I'll just leave it there.
All right, appreciate all of you, man. You guys check out the Hash Rally podcast, Brother Bakari's podcast. Thanks to Brother Bakari for coming up. Check out Only in the Morning, the Pro-Black Perspective. Check us all out. You know me, I'll be back with you guys next week, Saturday. Check out the Shoot the Breeze clip show. Like I say, sometimes when you listen to these clips, as I get to, the clips, the conversations really hit a little different. So you guys check it out. Shout out to Trigger Happy 262 who said, good show. Shout out to all you guys who's in the chat tonight. Trigger Happy 262, Keta, Yana B, Jose, KW Don 7, Anthony McPhail, The4Kast, Brother Bakari, Joe, Daily Affirmations by Pauline, The Pro-Black Perspective. Shout out to all of you tonight who was here. I'll see you guys next week. You guys be good. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.